did not have to be the worst case scenario. It was bad, but this breach in the levee, which is an unconscionable thing, and I talked to the governor about this yesterday, we'll get to that in a couple of seconds, but she and her husband both very upset. The Coast Guard had promised, the Corps of Engineers had promised the city that they were bringing in these massive helicopters to drop these large sandbags. When I talked to those experts that Sal and I did yesterday at LSU, the water at one time in the day had evened out. And that was an ideal time, an opportune time to go ahead and drop those. Mayor Nagin is upset they didn't. We don't know why they didn't, but they did not. And if we can go ahead and roll the interview with the governor, we'll get her comments and thoughts on that. Thanks for joining us. First of all, a lot of people do want to commend you for the job you've done on this, especially being down in New Orleans on Saturday and Sunday for the news conferences. And you really have been a very calming voice and a voice that's brought a lot of people together on this. Having said that, with this breach in New Orleans we have on this levee, we're about to face real disaster in the city.
Well, it's just absolutely necessary that the Corps get more sandbags into that breach. I mean, we've got to stop it some way, somehow. And I have to get back to the Office of Emergency Preparedness to figure out what's taking so long, why the hesitation, why the wait, what are the problems? There may be problems that I haven't been told about yet, so we have to get that done. We have to stop that water.
I was told from the governor's office that there are 12 Army helicopters that are supposed to be coming this way. They're waiting for a signature of the Pentagon to get that done. Some of those will be rescue helicopters. Others will be able to carry some very heavy sandbags, things like that, if they can go ahead and breach that levee.
We are on our website right now, and we are streaming information. So the WWL website, WWL-TV.com website is now up and running.
Lots of blogs on there for people to, try and find information about their locale that they want to really find out how it fared during the system.
The first news conference of the day is going on at the Office of Emergency Preparation.
And we have Stephanie Regal there with that.
Governor Kathleen Blanco is going to lead a prayer service. She has asked that today be a day of prayer around the state. And so right there in the pit, the Emergency Operations Center, where all the law enforcement officials and state agencies are trying to coordinate just the massive rescue efforts and relief efforts that are underway. And they've been in there working days and days. So we'll bring you that later.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mark Smith. I'm the Public Information Officer for the Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness here in Louisiana. We're going to give y'all a quick update this morning on what we've got going on. Right now, search and rescue efforts continue. The Coast Guard continues to fly missions and work with wildlife and fisheries. One of their key things this morning is to get the hospitals evacuated. One hospital in particular, I believe it's Methodist Hospital, has over 1,000 patients in it, and that number is coming down rapidly as Wildlife and Fisheries and the Coast Guard move to get those patients out.
Meg Ferris is here. What are you hearing?
A lot of those people who've been evacuated, we've got some videotape to show you, and it's unedited. It is raw footage. We're just going to let it play. We've gotten some interviews. Right near where our broadcast center here at LSU is the Pete Maravich Center, and that's where they're bringing people who have all sorts of illnesses over to this big center. Of course, we were not allowed inside the center because it's privacy, because they're all patients and sick people in there. But what we were surprised to find, the photographer and I, Kevin Breen, found were many, many people outside with literally the pajamas on their backs, with nothing, and children just sleeping on, a sheet on the concrete out there. These are the people who weren't sick, who were brought in. Many of these people were airlifted out of their homes. Homes, as they described, they were people who had nothing. They were people from the St. Bernard Housing Development. There were people from New Orleans East.
We have some brand new video from the Gulf Coast, from the Gulfport area, and Gulfport and Biloxi sustained some incredibly heavy damage, and you can look and see some of the debris around there. I don't know how far this is from the coastline. That may be the coastline on the right there, I'm not sure, but some of the pictures I saw yesterday were totally devastating, and just some buildings just totally wiped out. A number of the floating casinos there in Mississippi were heavily damaged. I believe that's the beach on the top right-hand section of the screen.
And the Beau Rivage was heavily
look at
damaged.
this, Sally, you
Look
can
at the
see-
devastation.
You can see those were all buildings. There's nothing left. It's like a buzzsaw came through and just wiped everything off their foundations.
Pass Christian was hard hit.
Look at the litter on the ground, the splinters of wood, and then a block away, other buildings are standing.
And
now, there's the coast right there.
My mother and my sister and my two nieces stayed in Biloxi in my mother's home. And the last thing I said to them, other than telling them to evacuate, was if it gets real bad, go into the guest bathroom with mattresses. And I could just hear in my sister's voice that, oh, that's not going to be a major problem. But they managed to survive. And I'm sure I haven't had a chance to speak to my mother or my sister at this point, but I know that they're alive, and I'm grateful.
And you wonder what happened if some of the folks stayed in some of these homes, some of the ones that were flattened.
Well, there was that apartment complex where they know 30 people were
look at the
killed.
damage. Yeah, look at the damage here, Meg. Just everything on the ground there. It's just hard to fathom there can be this much destruction. It looks almost like a bomb dropped here.
And they say 110 people confirmed deaths on the Mississippi, in the Mississippi area.
And that's just
it's
Mississippi.
climbing. And they haven't been able to.
Yeah.
And this is something that I'm looking at this, and it's like Camille.
KHOU is reporting that they are going to go ahead and evacuate the Superdome, the 9,000 or 10,000 people there, take them by boat, then bus them to the Astrodome in Houston. That is the word from KHOU in Houston. So hopefully that's true for those folks' sake.
Oh, yes.
And Governor Kathleen Blanco has some updated information about how they plan to evacuate the Superdome and what they plan to do with the refugees. We'll take the governor's press conference now.
We have an announcement to make about the evacuees that are currently housed at the Superdome in New Orleans. As you know, many of these people didn't have a way or a place to go. They stayed in the city during the brunt of the hurricane. About 10,000 of them literally went to the dome for protection. Another 10,000 or so have been plucked from the roofs, pulled out of their attics, and rescued from dangerous places in the city. I have been in contact with Governor Rick Perry of Texas, Mayor Bill White of Houston, and Judge Eccles, Harris County Judge. He is the equivalent of a parish president here in Louisiana. We're going to, they have graciously agreed and are anxious to help and reach out, but they've agreed that we can use the Astrodome as a place for our folks to begin to normalize.
The President and I had a conference call and a video conference this morning with members of his cabinet and myself. We went over the situation. The President has authorized Northcom, Northern Command of the Department of Defense, to provide relief efforts and to assist FEMA in this regard.
So again, the state has worked out a plan to evacuate some 23,000 refugees in the Superdome and transport them primarily by bus to the Houston Astrodome, where they will be housed temporarily. For how long, no one knows, but at least they will be in a place with fresh beds and bathrooms and proper sanitary conditions. It's going to be a massive effort, and the military, as you heard the officials say, is coming in to help. Several hundred troops will be actually manning and operating the evacuation process.
And we are now ready to throw it to our colleagues in New Orleans. And I'm not sure who's with us today, but it's Karen. Okay, let's go to Karen Swenson. Hi, Karen.
Hi, Eric and Sally. I'm here with Dennis Waltering, and Sally, we are so glad to hear that your mother and your sister are okay. Another story with a happy ending, and I think we need to hear more of these happy endings.
We need some upbeat news about now.
And it was encouraging. Obviously, the big story here in the New Orleans area is the flooding from the 17th Street Canal. We just heard from the state official who said that he thought that, to the best of his knowledge, the waters were actually receding. We have crews all over the area, and we will be bringing you the information just as we get it. We do have a crew out there. Dave McNamara is going to be personally assessing the 17th Street Canal situation and whether or not the water is in fact rising throughout the city, including uptown.
And we also have a crew. We have Josh McKelvin going to talk to the mayor, who's situated at the Hyatt Regency Hotel right by the Superdome, and then to check out the Superdome situation. Now, as you recall, Mayor Nagin has said he was concerned that since the breach in the levee wasn't fixed, that they failed to sandbag it and block up that breach. He said that the waters would rise over a period of 12 to 15 hours, and that really about 8:30, 9 o'clock this morning, that we should see waters rising all around the east bank of Orleans Parish to the point of 3 feet above sea level. He said, as an example, if St. Charles is 6 feet below sea level, that would mean that floodwaters on St. Charles would be at 9 feet. And that same situation would happen all over the east bank of the city, including the French Quarter. Now, we did hear this official at the governor's news conference say that he had the understanding that waters were going down, receding, but we're not really sure about that yet. And Josh will be checking that out, and Dave McNamara will be at the 17th Street Canal.
The priorities break down like this. You have the sick people, the people from the hospitals that need to get out. Then it's the Superdome, which is obviously a big priority, and then it's the people on the interstate. We talked to him a short time ago about all these things, and here's what he had to say.
Mayor, where do things stand now as far as evacuation is concerned? That's still the rescue and evacuation.
Well, rescue and evacuation is still going on, and it's still going to continue. I am very encouraged this morning. We had General Honoré to fly in, the 1st Battalion of the Army. We have a Navy ship, a huge hospital ship that's on the way. We have Coast Guard operations that are coming. We've worked out some transportation issues, and our priorities are still rescue, search and rescue, which we're going to continue. And now we're in the process of moving hospital sick people out of the community. And we have a wonderful plan that is getting ready to be implemented in the next 3 to 4 hours.
But for the people in the Superdome, still upwards of 15 to 25,000 people, what is the plan for them?
They are going to start to be moved right after we get all the medical people out. We not only have medical people here and in the arena, but we have some over at the convention center.
Say medical people, you mean patients?
Medical patients, I'm sorry. Medical patients. We're going to move them. They're our first priority. They're not that significant number, so we should get them out within the next couple of hours. Then after that, we will have 350 buses that are staged, and they're going to test to see whether they can get the buses close to the Superdome. If they do that, caravan of 10 buses with full buses will start to move people out of the Superdome, and we hope to get most of those folks out before nightfall.
Where are they headed?
They're headed all over the place.
And look at this, all these people up on the interstate. Nowhere to go. Some of them, I guess, going into Jefferson Parish. Aaron Broussard, Dr. Walter Maestri, rather, saying that this is becoming a problem for Jefferson Parish because the people are, some of them are coming over the bridge and going into Jefferson Parish and looking for shelter in Jefferson Parish. And he says their resources are strained to the point where they just can't accommodate these people.
And just the basic necessities of food and water are growing scarce, and that's why it is so important that we get the federal help. And apparently 4 Navy boats are on their way.
4 Navy boats, 4 ships are on their way. Dr. Maestri was saying that Jefferson Parish has used up, I mean, they're out of food and water. They went into like the Sam's Club, the Save a Center, and those kinds of stores, and seized basically food and water for the refugees in their shelters. But now that food and water has been used up.
Let's take a look at some of the rescue efforts that were taking place today. And again, these are the people that for the first time are feeling solid ground again. They have, these are a lot, Lake Forest Boulevards, the people we talked to, and all through New Orleans East, the choppers. And you can see in the area, see, there's one of the rescue workers, the mother. I mean, that baby's been in diapers on a roof for 3 days, since Monday morning.
And she's just clinging to that rescuer.
Right.
And that poor baby. And to be in this hot sun, too. Oh, they're going to need some attention, but I'm sure they are so glad to to be able to say
And
that
they just
the worst
keep coming.
is
I
behind
mean,
them.
just in that one shot, if I get my ugly mug out of it.
They would have like half a dozen people on these shoppers?
Yeah,
I
it just
mean,
depended. I don't think they're really going in to fill them up as much as get 4 or 5.
Yeah.
I think 4, 5, 6 would be the max that we saw, and we won't stay the whole time down there. But I mean, literally in 15 seconds, he's back up.
Wow.
And he's back in New Orleans East, and as soon as he's back up, another one is there, and they get in lines, and it's from a relative situation, it's orderly. You know, people are tired, man. They're hungry. You know, they are dehydrated. You can see them all. See all those people?
Oh my gosh.
They're all lined up right there underneath the I-10. We are actually, if you were going I-10 eastbound, we are on the little loop to get on Causeway. That's where we were actually heading back to the station when I slammed on the brakes and said, "Oh," because you know I didn't know this was happening.
Right.
And the Red
Nice
Cross,
food.
there's
Food there for them.
Josh in the front with his teddy bear and his sister. And
Wow.
man, that's a smile that's worth $1 million.
exactly.
Like some 50 ambulances just waiting to take them. Those are the people who have been rescued, trying to get some shade. You know, just
So the
a
ambulance
load.
is waiting for people who have medical needs, immediate medical needs.
These right here are people that are fine. People that are in line to get water, some sandwiches, some snacks. On the eastbound lanes, on the westbound lanes of I-10 are the tents. There they are, see? I mean, and so it's in the shade, and they're getting IVs. It's not a comfortable situation, but again, you have to remember where they have been the last 2 days. You know, we'll hear from some of the people. I'll go start working on that, but you know, the news at this juncture for people in West Metairie, because again, we didn't go east of Causeway. West Metairie, the water is down, the water is gone. You've got tree damage, and it's better than I expected.
Well, that's great news.
Thanks a lot,
Thanks a
Mike.
lot, Mike. I appreciate it.
We're going to try to bring you information from all of the areas around the metro area as we get there. And I understand we've got a report now from the
We
North
have
Shore.
Mike Ross, live in Slidell. Mike?
Well, Dennis and Karen, we're standing here at the foot of the twin spans, and even now it's still hard to believe what has transpired in the last 48 hours. Hard to believe that this vital lifeline of commerce and jobs for people living on the North Shore, making that daily trip to New Orleans for employment, that lifeline here severed now in several places. We've shown you the video from the air, the twin spans just decimated by this hurricane, and still just really hard to believe even standing here. This morning we went back into the Eden Isles Oak Harbor neighborhood area just to take another look. Slowly but surely some residents are making their way through the high water that still kind of blocks the entrance here off the I-10, making their way back to see what's left. And house after house, neighborhood after neighborhood, the story is pretty much the same. 20-foot wall of water went through this area into homes. We've been told by residents typically anywhere from 3 to 10 feet of water got into houses. In some homes, thick mud covers the floors. Remarkably, though, with a few exceptions, and many exceptions I have to say, most of the houses are still standing. The basic structures are still there. And as Katrina was coming ashore, and as we were doing our reports and monitoring the situation here, we had the greatest fear that this entire area, Eden Isles, Oak Harbor, Clipper Estates, would be wiped off the map. Well, I can tell you it is a very pleasant surprise, even though there is extensive damage. It's still a pleasant surprise that these homes are still here. Again, there's going to be a lot of work to clean up these homes. Very few residents coming in this morning. The police pretty much keeping everybody out still, but allowing a few people just to go back and take a quick look. We talked to some of those residents today, and they gave us some pretty detailed descriptions about what they found, and we'll hear from them as soon as we get the tape ready in just a minute. But the one thing that they stressed over and over again, the people who live in this area, to their friends and neighbors who may be watching and listening to us over WWL-TV.com, is that do not come back. As much as you want to come back, as much as you want to see how much damage there's been, as much as you want to try to get your life back together, your neighbors here in the Eden Isles area are pleading with you to not come back at this time. Reporting live from the North Shore, I'm Mike Ross, Channel 4 Eyewitness News.
Okay, and we have been listening to Dennis and Karen in New Orleans, and also a number of our New Orleans reporters, and it's so nice to see them and get some news as we've been trying to provide to you all morning long. I'm Jennifer Huntley, in with Lee Zurich.
And some positive news. Mike
Yes,
Ross
yes.
had some positive news. Mike Hoss about parts of Jefferson Parish with some positive news as well. Also want to let everyone know we're obviously streaming on our website, WWL-TV.com. I know a number of you have been watching us over the past couple of days trying to get information. We're also now broadcasting all over the state of Louisiana on Louisiana Public Broadcasting. So if you're in Alexandria, Monroe, Shreveport, here in Baton Rouge, where we are right now, Lake Charles or Lafayette, you can see us on Louisiana Public Broadcasting as well.
Please stay with us, because we do expect a lot of information coming out through a number of sources throughout the afternoon. In just a couple of minutes at 2 o'clock, we're expecting a press conference from the Emergency Operations Center here in Baton Rouge, and we expect to have some more information coming from that press conference. Also at 4 o'clock, President Bush is expected to address the press in Washington, D.C. He flew back earlier today from his ranch in Crawford, Texas, and was able to get an aerial view of the devastation on a quick flyover on his way back to Washington, D.C., and we expect to hear more from him at 4 o'clock this afternoon. We'll bring you that live.
And he's not sure when he'll come back again, but he will come back probably after all the rescue efforts are over and he doesn't get in the way of trying to save people's lives. You know, and speaking of saving people's lives and giving assistance, we put together a list of different phone numbers all of you watching can call. I know there's a number of people out of town who are interested. You know, if you want to give assistance, if you want to help out, there's a report that over $21 million has already been donated to help out Hurricane Katrina victims, and that's right on pace with the same early efforts from the tsunami disaster. So so far, everyone is giving. If you're interested in giving, Jefferson Parish OEP office is asking for you to call them. They need supplies, food and other supplies. Also, the Red Cross, 1-800-HELP-NOW. That's 1-800-435-7669.
And I know a lot of people, just a lot of family members, are emailing me and asking me what they can do to help. So those are some good numbers. Also, to help, to get help for those who have been rescued, you can call these 4 numbers. They are Baton Rouge numbers: 225-925-7708 or 225-925-7709. Also 225-925-3511 and 225-925-7412 to get help to those who have been rescued.
And we're gonna give you a bunch of numbers here. We're gonna try to rerun these again and also put them on our website, WWL-TV.com. For information on people who remained in the hurricane area, call the Red Cross, 1-800-GET-INFO or 1-800-438-4636. That's for information on people who remained in the hurricane area. Now, for people in extreme emergencies, for people still in the hurricane area in extreme emergencies, you can call the state police at 1-800-469-4828. That's 1-800-469-4828. I know there's a lot of people out there still. A lot of emails we've all received. I still actually have some relatives there as well. In the city. So yeah, so we're obviously going to be calling this number as well. Kenner Emergency 468-7200. In St. John Parish, the East Bank number is 985-652-6338, and on the West Bank it's 985-497-3321.
And those are some of the most important numbers that we've given you, but some other numbers that you might want to also call. You can call the Coast Guard. They've been so helpful in rescue efforts. Their number, and it may take a while to get through, but their number is 225, that's here in Baton Rouge, 389-2133. Also, if you have complaints about price gouging, you can call an 800 number, 1-800-488-2770.
And we're joined now by Brad Panovich, former Channel 4 meteorologist.
But he is a part of the family.
He's a part of the BLO family, and a lot of the BLO family has been down here helping us, and luckily they sent Brad back, which is actually great because he moved on, but he's still obviously very familiar with New Orleans since he worked there for many years. And when we were talking this morning, Brad, we were talking about just the elevation of different parts of New Orleans and how the flooding is going to affect different areas. And I know you've been doing a lot of research on this throughout the day.
Yeah, before I left to go to Charlotte, I would do tons of school talks, tons of safety talks to civic groups, and you tell everyone a million times, this complex, levee, dike, pumping station system was going to fail. We knew it probably would fail in a major hurricane, and we're beginning to get an idea of where the failures occurred, why we're getting water in certain parts of the city. And we're going to go to the computer now, show you some graphics. We're starting with the Google Earth here that kind of give you some perspective. You can see Metairie here in the middle of your screen, New Orleans off towards the east. I'm going to zoom in. We're going to zoom in on what is the 17th Street Canal, the big problem. And based on the aerials, this is Bel Air Drive. This is 40th Street, and the breach occurred between these two blocks right in here. And all the water spilled into the Orleans side of the levee. This is
The Orleans side is on the right.
Yeah, on the right. So if you're looking at the screen,
So the lakes to
the lake is
top
to the
of
north.
the
I'll move it up.
Okay.
See, there's the lake.
Right.
Bucktown area. Everyone's familiar with that. All the seafood restaurants. You got the marina up there, the Coast Guard station. And as you see, the 17th Street Canal. This is Lake Avenue over here, where I lived for a time when I lived in New Orleans. Now, as we widen out, kind of give you an idea, all that water flowed into the east side of the parish line there. That's where the water's coming from. Now I'm going to go over, you can see City Park there. We'll head to the east, and the other problem was the Industrial Canal. You can see there's the Industrial Canal right there. Now the Industrial Canal, for folks that aren't from New Orleans, connects the lake, the Gulf of Mexico, and the Mississippi River, allows barge traffic ships. And now what happened here is you had a breach right here near the 9th Ward.
Right.
And you basically
that was the first breach.
Yeah, that was the
we were
first
talking
one.
about.
Water was flowing from the lake through the Industrial Canal into the 9th Ward, Gentilly area, all that area in New Orleans East. That area was flooded. What happened today was kind of interesting, and it really started yesterday. When the breach occurred over here in the 17th Street levee, the water was actually, instead of going out through the lake, the surge that came in, it was flowing through the city, through parts of Metairie, down into the CBD, through mid-city, heading over towards Gentilly. It was flowing back then into the Industrial Canal.
Into?
Yeah, and then back into the Gulf of Mexico and the Mississippi River. So basically the lake water was taking a shortcut back to the Gulf of Mexico.
Now, is that how it's going? I'm sorry. Is that how it's going to drain out then?
Only initially. When the water was high enough to still flow, it was. But you got to remember, all this area is under sea level. That's what leads me to the next part. Got some pictures here to kind of describe what's going on. There was the eye, and I wanted to show real quickly that was a landfall. But more importantly, is this picture right here. What you're looking at is a color-coded map of New Orleans for elevation. The red area is the lowest elevations. The green areas are the highest, above sea level, if you will. Anything green is actually at or above sea level. And I'm putting the cursor right where the 17th Street Canal is. What happened when that broke, the water was able to flow through here, back to the Industrial Canal, back down the Industrial Canal, and into the Gulf of Mexico or the Mississippi River. There's a branch there. Now what happens though, once enough water runs off, it's going to settle in all these low parts. You can see the Louisiana Superdome, where the evacuation center is. That's actually a low spot. So the water was able to flow down Canal Street over there. Believe it or not, near the river, the closer you get to the river, it's actually dry. So that was a little bit of good news. Here's a cross section down to the lower part of your screen. You can see here's the Mississippi River off to the left. Here's Lake Pontchartrain. There's a ridge actually that comes up to sea level called the Gentilly Ridge, but that was useless because the water is actually able to overtop that ridge and get.
Can you point to the French Quarter on that?
The French Quarter would be right over here. Here's St. Louis Cathedral and the French Quarter. So actually, believe it or not, the closer you get to the river, it gets higher above sea level because they had to build up the land, obviously, to build the levee.
That sort of bowl.
And this levee at the river was actually built very high because it was supposed to withstand not only storm surge flooding, but also to keep the river out from river flooding in the spring when we get spring floods upstream to bring down water. Now I'm going to give you a cross section to give you a better idea. Of course, here's the river off to the left. Here's the lake to the east, and you can see sea level is right there, or right about here, where the zero is. So you can see even at the levee at the river, it's just above sea level. So, but this is the bowl. This is pretty much the bowl you're talking about right here. Basically, what this is showing where there's water and where there's not. I'm zooming into the 17th Street Canal. That is right there. Notice all to the east, it's blue looking, that's water in the city.
Gosh.
What time was this taken?
This was taken, I think, about 11 or 12, 11 o'clock a.m.
today.
So this is kind of when, just before it stabilized from what we
now
understand.
we do have some clouds here, so we're getting a little problem, but you can kind of get the idea.
Yeah.
I'm going to go in even closer to give you an idea. That's the causeway right there. This is Lake Avenue, Bucktown right there. Notice there doesn't seem to be water right there, even though that's a very low-lying area. I don't see a lot of water. If you look closely, that's Esplanade Avenue there in Metairie. there's a drainage canal, if you guys have been over there. It's just a little one that runs right in between where the road is split. There looks like there's a little bit of flooding there because that may be backing up.
Where's I-10?
I-10 would be down in this region, right in here.
Okay.
And that's what's interesting. There's some water that got onto the Jefferson side of the levee, it looks like. It looks like right in between the Earhart Expressway and maybe Old Metairie. Now, it's really hard to tell on this map, but I'm just giving you a general idea of neighborhoods. We can't go house by house because it's not detailed enough. But I want to get a little closer to downtown. And, of course, here's the Crescent and the Crescent River there, making it the Crescent City. Yeah. There is water clearly moving towards uptown. What you're looking at right here would be like the zoo area, Audubon Park, Tulane University. It looks like the water came through uptown, maybe down St. Charles and Magazine Street, and then it kind of leveled off or didn't make it all the way to the zoo and Audubon Park. So if you live in that part of town, there may be some hope that you have some at least your house is dry. I can't say that we don't have some street
storm
flood
damage
and wind damage, of course. Right. And I'm going to pan out again just to kind of give you an idea over towards St. Bernard Parish in eastern New Orleans. You can see this is all underwater over here.
So interesting.
And we're going to have you do that again for us later tonight.
So other people can catch it.
I think it gives the people an idea. If you kind of know where your house is, you kind of get an idea, okay.
Right. How bad is it?
Did I have water? Because some folks probably got water on their street but may have not gotten it in the house. But there's other areas where it was over the house.
Now we will also bring you to the West Bank of New Orleans, where I believe we are going to join Dennis and Karen for more on what's going on down in New Orleans.
All right, welcome back to our continuing coverage of Hurricane Katrina and her aftermath from here in the New Orleans area. I'm Karen Swenson along with Dennis Waltering, and we are, again, 4 days into this.
Yes, and Lucy Bustamante, I mean, the pictures from the air tell a big part of the story, what's been happening. We have heard good news today that water has been receding in some parts of town. Mike Haas was here earlier telling us about Metairie, that the water was down in some parts, some places where there was water yesterday when Eric was up in the air shooting some aerials. Today, Lucy Bustamante went up and shot some aerials, and let's take a look at what she found when she was in the air.
As you can see here, just right in downtown New Orleans, these people are just camped out right on the freeway. They are with their families. You can see that the water in the city has really risen since the levee breach yesterday. These are people that did not leave the city, obviously. They were trying to get out and could not get out. Now they're just stuck on the interstate. It is one of the highest points in the city. They cannot go down into the streets. The water is just way too high at this point. Now we're looking at an area close to Charity Hospital, right where the interstate system hits around the Superdome and the arena.
And one question that I did ask, did you think this would happen to you? Mm-hmm. What did you imagine? Mm-hmm. You know, and people were on a rooftop. They were stuck in the attics. And if we could go to the sound, it's dramatic. It's traumatic. It's I don't know how to explain it.
Karen and Angela and Scooby Gabe.
And Gabe, we're all right.
And the Sherborne family, we're all right. Me and Ronnie's all right. By the grace of God, I got a story to tell my grandson when I see him. I love you. Thank you so much.
Love you too. I love you. Thank you. Thank you.
Boats. It's just been a nightmare. It's just holy hell. I don't wish that on anybody. They say hurricane, you gotta go. You gotta go.
How long did you stay on the roof?
We stayed on the roof 48 hours, 2 days. And then we swam and got a boat, and then we started going around to stores, and as it was flooding out with food, we just started scooping the food up and eating it, and then drinking the water, and then we finally took the boat, and we found some gas, and we drove the boat all the way to the levee.
Think you ever be rescued?
In the beginning, I didn't think so. I just knew in my heart that we would survive. I knew we'd survive. But I thought they'd have more planes and more boats and more trucks out there, and they just didn't come, so we knew we had to get out of there. We started getting smelly and famine, and it was just getting nasty.
It wasn't much that we could do for people, but at least we could let them tell their family members that they were safe. That's all.
What does that writing say there?
And 5?
Save 5 of us.
Save 5 of us. Wow.
Wow.
And these are families. I think initially we started to see men yesterday up on the roofs. Maybe they were the first ones to try to get help, and the families were still down below. But now, as you see, we're starting to see children, which is just heartbreaking to just imagine what these children just psychologically and obviously physically are going through right now as they try to get rescued and, you know, as they watch the water rise throughout the day.
You know, I know we've seen a lot of tragedies, and I know this one obviously hits right at home for us, but it's hard for me to remember any kind of just, there's been so many just gut-wrenching and just pictures over the past couple of days that just, yeah, I don't think I've ever seen anything like this.
Yeah, and you think that you've seen the worst, and then you see another shot of another scene throughout the city, and you're looking at it and you're like, is this our city? Is this,
I know.
Is this what's happened? It's almost like it's a different world or a different country or a different place. It does not look like New Orleans.
And there's just so many of these people. I mean, we just see countless and countless numbers of people waving and asking for help, and the fact is, unfortunately, they're only allowed to help a certain amount of people at the same time. And the president, we told you about his press conference. We believe it's getting ready to begin back in Washington, D.C., so let's take President George Bush.
FEMA's moving supplies and equipment into the hardest hit areas. The Department of Transportation has provided more than 400 trucks to move 1,000 truckloads containing 5.4 million meals ready to eat, or MREs, 13.4 million liters of water, 10,400 tarps, 3.4 million pounds of ice, 144 generators, 20 containers of pre-positioned disaster supplies, 135,000 blankets, and 11,000 cots, and we're just starting.
And we were listening to a news conference live from the White House from President Bush. President Bush saying that this is a difficult road, that challenges we face are unprecedented, but he wanted to remind the citizens of Southeast Louisiana that the country stands with them as they face this challenge. He also gave some statistics on what the federal government is going to be doing to help, and that is so important because a lot of people need this help.
Certainly the big story that we've been following as far as New Orleans is trying to get that breach in the 17th Street Canal taken care of, because until it is, you know, it's hard to get the water out. If you just, it's a circle, pumping it back in. Dave McNair's been following that story. What can you tell us?
Well, the bad news is there's no quick fix on that particular levee breach. It is still, it's still wide open. In fact, we're going to show you, this is some video that we shot just a short while ago. We paddled in a canoe to get out to the levee break, and this is what it looks like. To tell you exactly where this is standing on Old Hammond Highway looking south toward Veterans. This is on the left-hand side, the Orleans Parish side of the canal. And you can see where this levee was just chewed apart. Now, this is the water level view of, we're actually in the breach here, looking back toward where we just were standing shooting the video. But it's a gaping hole. Now we're in the neighborhood. This would be on Bel Air Drive in the city of New Orleans, looking through the hole. The wall that you see is the wall on the other side of the canal, on the Jefferson Parish side.
Sounds like 2 blocks long, that hole.
Probably a block, yeah, about a block long. When you're in a canoe and you're in a lake, it's kind of hard to judge blocks.
Right.
But
and it's so deep there, isn't it?
Oh, it was. In fact, you're going to see in just a minute just how deep it was. But obviously, some major work needs to be done on this levee because not only did it tear the wall down, but it tore down everything behind it. We saw the worst damages to homes immediately behind this break. Walls were just blown out of homes in this particular area. That was a Corps of Engineers survey crew. They were doing some depth soundings to see how deep it was in various areas so they could plan the repair work. And there are some sections of the concrete wall that were washed in by the hurricane. We did talk to the Corps of Engineers person on the scene who was heading up the operation. His name is David Wurtzel, and we asked him, how are they going to get it fixed?
We have all sorts of assets moving in, and we're making every different operation workable to solve the solution.
You're building a road right now to get access to the breach?
We're building a road. We're flying in sandbags. We're going to be driving sheet pile. It's multiple operations.
And Mr. Maestri was telling us about building a perimeter levee behind these. Is that work going on now?
There were many different operations going on. I'm sure Mr. Maestri has something in mind, and it's been cleared, and we'll be working on anything that they send to us.
How long before you can start plugging the hole with sandbags?
Actually, we started yesterday with plugging the hole with sandbags. We dropped 10 sandbags in. We have the operation moving. We're just waiting for more assets to come in.
And for people who want to know when the water stops coming in, what can you tell them?
The real fix will come in when we start getting sandbags coming out of the water, sheet pile out in front here. It's just an operation. We're waiting on assets. We're moving.
When we first headed out in the canoe, we're seeing these houses standing there, and then all of a sudden it hit me. What I was seeing was the second story of homes. The water was up to the gutters on first story homes, and here you can see we're actually canoeing through the treetops as we go down Bel Air Drive.
Tree limbs now in your way.
Oh yeah,
You're so far up, these massive trunks are in your way.
You know, we were pretty much at the level of the power lines as we went down these streets in some of the neighborhoods. The street signs were completely submerged.
Jonathan Betts has been kind of a follow-up a little bit to what Josh was working on, has been talking about the refugee crisis and just the stream of people walking out of our city. And I'm sure many don't know where they're going, but they're leaving our city.
By the hundreds, people are getting out of New Orleans any way they can. Too weak to walk, neighbors pushed Francis Ziner through downtown on a cart, hoping to find him shelter.
Good friend. You're supposed to help your neighbor.
Others are getting out by stealing rides like this mail truck with a wheelchair on top. And many others are simply walking out. She worries about her missing 13-year-old brother as her family begins hiking across the Crescent City connection. Neck-deep water swamped their house. They waded out to the elevated highways, some of the only dry land in New Orleans.
Even dead bodies floating in the water that you have to go through in order to get on the bridge, the stairway.
Most have no idea where to go. All they know is they want out. Downtown is turning into a refugee camp of sorts. Hundreds left the Superdome, crowding instead the convention center. Buses are dropping off people and telling them to wait for another ride, but many are old and sick and can barely walk, and often the ride shows up very late.
Said that a bus or a van was going to pick us up from the bridge, but nobody came last night. We all slept on the bridge overnight.
So they stand and wait for hours. Information is as scarce as transportation.
How can we get out of town? Without a car. Slim chance, without a car, none.
For some, the only way out of New Orleans is by foot, because many don't want to spend a third night in a city swamped with problems. Jonathan Betts, Channel 4 Eyewitness News.
Wow. I had not, that's the first time I'd seen the people were at the convention center.
One of our reporters who is here from Washington, D.C., she's from our sister station
Sarah
in Washington,
Nakasone. She's actually from our D.C. Bureau.
D.C. Bureau.
Sarah Nakasone.
And she came in, she actually left very, very early this morning. We were talking with her a little earlier about her experiences. She went at 6 a.m. this morning to get into the French Quarter and to see sort of the devastation there and the looting going on there. And it sounded like her story is pretty incredible.
It really is. Let's take a look at Sarah's report.
High waters in the French Quarter couldn't mask the tide of looting.
I guess they figured that's opportunity, so I guess they're going to smash and grab, get what they could get.
And the constant chaos only unearthed more desperation.
Depressed, miserable, come on.
Basically, this is all I own right about now.
Today, more evacuations, but for some, it's harder to leave now more than ever.
If my mama died in my house, I'm gonna kill myself. I can't take that.
But Joe Bradley will gladly leave what he calls a war zone by day and by night.
Mostly we hear people crying out for help.
Local officials say the water level in Lake Pontchartrain is still 2 feet above normal, and they fear that too could empty out into downtown New Orleans. But Jesse Clinton's survival has little to do with the flood.
The guy beat me on my face.
Yesterday, he tried to stop looters from stealing, while he says police watched.
We're not set up to have prisoners. Basically, we're just trying to keep order right now. This is some semblance of order.
This is normal.
No, this is not normal. New Orleans is not this. Never seen this before. Never.
And you know, that is in our city, and it's a shame that in the big picture, I guess, a small amount of people can make our city look like that. You know, I do want to say Attorney General Charles Fody said at a news conference earlier today that they are hopeful to set up a temporary detention center, and I believe a temporary courtroom, so hopefully
outside of the parish. They're going to set up the detention center inside and take all of these people, or start to take some of the people and get everything under control.
You know, we have some energy people here off camera, so let's get them microphone and get up here, because I know a lot of people want to know the latest
wondering about Entergy.
on
We've
Entergy.
heard a lot of reports about Entergy.
And we had a report on Clico earlier.
Getting the power back on.
And hopefully about a month or so before St. Tammany Parish and Washington Parish will be restored. And now
Clico is staging its efforts out of Baton Rouge here, which a lot of people are, because it seems like Entergy is, as well as you were all down in New Orleans throughout the storm at the Hyatt. Is that correct? Some of the employees.
Of you were.
Right. Okay.
What can you tell us? What's the latest?
I'm Renee Conley, and I run the Louisiana operations for Entergy. So we've been in, a lot of us have been in Baton Rouge. But right now, you know, as everybody has watched and seen all the horrific viewing, we continue to do a lot of assessment. And we know that there'll be a lot of rebuilding going on, and we'll be very much a part of that, and are definitely here to face the challenge. I guess the good news is we have about 9,000 line workers in and around our system here and coming to help us. So that is up significantly from a couple days ago, as we have been able to continue to secure more help.
Let me just ask you a question, just to kind of give us a point of reference. Hurricanes or Tropical Storm Cindy, how much help was there for that storm, about approximately?
Oh, Cindy was, you know, probably in the 1,000 to 2,000.
Okay, so it's a significant amount of more people. Okay.
Another comparison would be, and Cindy was the most significant.
Well, and the reason I ask that is because people were without power for a week, and or some people were 5 days or whatever, and some were out for like a day or two. So I was just curious.
And Entergy's system, Cindy was the worst storm we'd ever had. We had about 270,000 without power, and here this one we've got, you know, over 1 million. So it's been a significant hit.
And we were just looking at a lot of the video throughout the New Orleans metro area, and a lot of the area still underwater. So in terms of restoring power, obviously you got to wait till that water goes down.
Right.
And so how long could that be? I mean, those are the questions that we're posing to all emergency officials right now. But I mean, in terms of what you guys have estimated in getting back in there and getting power put back on?
Right. Well, you know, if you kind of start at the southeastern end of the state, we do have to wait till the water recedes in those areas to even begin to do serious assessment. And then from that point, I mean, we're saying 2 to 3 months.
2 to 3 months to get power back everywhere?
In that area, perhaps.
In the area
with the water.
Depending upon, you know, what you find and where the water is.
What about areas with no water right now?
We expect in some areas, if you come up kind of the river parish areas, maybe 2 to 4 weeks.
And we also told you all day long about the hospitals, and there's, I believe, 9 hospitals in the New Orleans area that they call Priority 1 hospitals, and they spent a large portion of today evacuating 1,600 patients, and a total of 10,000 when you consider relatives and loved ones and staff there. We'll go through those hospitals too: Mercy, LSU, the University Hospital, Charity Hospital, Memorial, which is the old Baptist. I guess Mercy's now Lindy Boggs, by the way. Methodist, Tulane, the VA Hospital, Chalmette Hospital, and Turo Infirmary. So all of those are priority 1 hospitals, and we're told patients there are being airlifted and brought in.
Yeah, they desperately want to get those patients out because there are just not enough generators at those hospitals and also not enough fuel to fuel those generators, and that is a concern for many of the patients that depend on machines to keep them even alive.
And for more on that, we have a report from Brad Watson, who's from our sister station, WFAA in Dallas.
New Orleans hospitals, set up to treat emergencies that happen elsewhere, became emergencies Wednesday. Rising floodwaters surrounded 3 of them. Inadequate care was no longer possible.
Our generator's down at Tulane, so we have no electricity or any backup. We've already helicoptered out all of the critical care patients, and now we're working on the rest of the patients and their families.
Some of New Orleans' major hospitals are downtown, and the only way to try and get patients out of these hospitals is by boat.
Game wardens from Louisiana and Texas formed a rescue boat convoy. But instead of lakes and streams, they navigated through an urban river of putrid water to a loading dock at Tulane University Hospital and Clinic. Their mission? Evacuate hundreds of patients and take them to a staging area for pickup by ambulances for transport to Baton Rouge. They took several boatloads and even picked up some New Orleans police officers. But then a mix-up in orders, so often seen in this emergency response since the hurricane. The ambulances didn't show up, so the evacuated patients had to wait in a parking lot guarded by police.
Yeah, scared to death. Yeah, sure was. I'm scared now. They say the river done bagged up. The levee broke. Scared now. A little cooler out here than it is in there.
The hospitals will make certain all the patients get out. When the water will leave, no one knows.
And we've been telling you about that press conference coming up at the Office of Emergency Preparedness.
And that's right, it's about to start. Let's go straight to Stephanie Regal.
Here we go. And of course, officials in New Orleans and around the state are dealing with so many different logistical issues and problems tonight. And Governor Blanco's communications director, Bob Mann, has an update for us on how the rescue and safety efforts are going in New Orleans tonight.
Okay. Let me just tell you that the situation at the Dome is that there are at least 100 buses of different sizes headed for the Dome this evening. We don't know when they'll be arriving there, but they will be moving people toward Houston as soon as possible.
Bill Capo returns from flying above and has more on. I know a difficult day for you, Bill.
It's been a long day.
Yeah.
But this tape will give you an idea of the scope of this disaster because it's absolutely incredible. We went with a crew from Ken's TV in San Antonio to the Gulf Coast. What you're looking at there is the Bay St. Louis Bridge. There's no bridge there. Look carefully.
Right.
What you're seeing are simply the pilings.
Pilings.
The entire bridge is gone. Scott, the photographer, and Dusty, the pilot. Dusty's from San Antonio, and Scott is from Portland, Oregon, and neither one of them could believe what they were seeing as they were shooting. The only thing left of that bridge is the drawbridge. Now, this is the railroad bridge that crosses Bay St. Louis. There's nothing left of it, too. In fact, you can see the spans lying in the water off to the side. The entire bridge was stripped off of its foundation and tossed into the bay by the storm surge. Again, the only thing left on that railroad bridge was the drawbridge in the middle of it. In Waveland, as we passed over Slidell, we saw serious damage. There was damage to roofs, trees were down and everything. By the time we hit Waveland and Bay St. Louis, we were beginning to see serious structural damage. And then we hit this bridge. Now, those of you who remember Camille will remember that the bridge was shifted, because I remember flying over this very same bridge. The bridge was there, but the spans were shifted, were picked up and shifted by the waves.
Gosh.
They weren't destroyed. They weren't knocked out.
And here they were.
And look, there's nothing left. You can't even see the spans. You don't know where they are.
Right.
And if you think that's bad, there's a lot more coming.
And this was all of the Gulf Coast?
Yes, this is Bay St. Louis, just in the town of Bay St. Louis. And we had to fly a little bit high here. We're about 1,500 feet because we were crossing the water. But you can see, look, there's a few of the spans are left lying sideways. Now, you know how big those concrete spans, anybody who's driven under the interstate knows how big and heavy those concrete, and water did that. That's the power of the storm surge created by a hurricane.
Jesus. It's just amazing.
You've probably been hearing people over the last day or two talk about how, I know Mississippi Governor Haley Barbour compared this to Hiroshima just after the atom bomb was dropped on that city at the end of World War II. Having flown over the Mississippi Gulf Coast after Camille when I was 17 and checking this damage now as a comparison, I can tell you this is worse than Camille was. You can see all of the Bayside places just destroyed. There were restaurants and homes right in there. This will be a very familiar sight to those who remember there was a toll station there right at the bend. That was where you paid tolls to cross Bay St. Louis before Hurricane Camille. It was buried under a huge pile of debris, and they stopped collecting the tolls and they rebuilt the bridge. Now, once again, in that corner, there is another huge pile of debris.
Wow.
Now we're coming out past Henderson Point.
It's everywhere.
And those are the railroad tracks. We saw the railroad bridge a minute ago.
Right.
Those railroad tracks run 2 blocks off the beach. Look at the pile of debris. What you're looking at, those are the beachfront houses. That's all that's left of them. As Scott widens out, we have a helicopter mounted on the camera rather, mounted on the helicopter. All of that debris on Sunday, those were homes. Now, you and I remember sitting here as the hurricane came through, and we were talking about the fact that Mississippi might feel the strongest blow.
This is fine.
The most of the winds and the most of the storm surge. We said the storm surge could be 30 feet. And there it is. Look, there's nothing left.
That's what I was going to ask. Is there anything?
Look, there are no structures left. You can see pools. You can see foundations. In a few cases, you can see walls left.